For a long time, Tupac didn't know who his father was. He complained this made him feel unmanly. At first, Tupac's mom Afeni said she didn't know who his father was. Then she told him his father was dead.
There ain't nobody tell us it was fair. No love for my daddy, cause the coward wasn't there. They say I'm wrong and I'm heartless, but all along
Welcome to the Dark Times channel. And before I get started, make sure you guys go ahead and hit that like button for me. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet and you enjoy the content on the channel, make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe to the channel as well. And so recently I came across a video which I'm sure many of you have already seen. And it's an interview with Tupac Shakur's father, Billy Garland. And a lot of people, I would say most people, back when Tupac Shakur was alive had no idea that he actually had a father, or had no idea that his father was even alive. Because one of Tupac's biggest songs was probably Dear Mama. Dear Mama was probably one of Tupac's top 3 songs. As far as popularity goes, you know, there's a lot of people that can definitely relate to that song. And that's one of those songs where you don't have to have an absent father in the home, or you don't have to have a mother who's strung out on drugs to be able to relate to that song. And so that's probably one of Tupac's biggest songs. But in that song, he talks about his father passing away, and he also talks about not having any love for his father because he never knew his father. He didn't know who his father was. And the reason he didn't know who his father was is because his mother, Afeni Shakur, told Tupac that his father had passed away. She told him that he died. And of course, Afeni Shakur is no longer here to defend herself, and all we have to go by is what Tupac Shakur said in his songs and what Billy Garland is now saying in the interviews. And so we'll go with that. And so in one of the interviews that came out recently, Tupac Shakur's father, Billy Garland, confirmed it pretty much. He said that Afeni Shakur had told Tupac that he passed away. And then Afeni Shakur packed up and they left town. And then Billy Garland also goes into the why Afeni Shakur would tell Tupac that his father had died. And according to him, the reason why she did this is because she was scorned. She was a woman that was scorned. He had left her for another woman. I believe he had left her for another woman that was also affiliated with the Black Panthers. And so we're talking about a woman that was scorned. And most likely, she had a right to be hurt. And so we're talking about a woman that was able to defend herself and free herself successfully, all the while being pregnant with Tupac Shakur behind bars. And so while she's behind bars fighting for her life, Tupac Shakur's father found another woman, allegedly. And so from her perspective, I'm sure she felt betrayed by a lot of people, and not just Billy Garland, but she probably felt betrayed by the Black Panthers as well. And so according to Billy Garland and Tupac Shakur, within his own lyrics, she turned to drugs. She got hooked on drugs, and subsequently they moved around a lot. At one point, I think they were in Baltimore, California, and then another place that Billy Garland had mentioned. And so this was somebody that, according to him, he tried to get in touch with Tupac Shakur. He tried to reach out and get in touch with Tupac Shakur. Allegedly, that's according to him. This is what he said. He said he could have tried harder, but he had other kids. He had other responsibilities. And so by Afeni Shakur moving around so much, it made it difficult for him to find him. And I believe at one point they were in and out of homeless shelters, so they didn't necessarily have an address. And so because of that, I'm pretty sure it was a lot harder to find his son. And according to Billy Garland, Tupac Shakur's father, it wasn't until a friend of his suggested that he go see the movie Juice. He said there's a guy in the movie that kind of looks like Tupac. At an early age, I believe Tupac would go spend the night on the weekends with his father and stay with his other kids. And so people knew who Tupac was. I believe it wasn't until the age of around 6 or 7 is when Tupac Shakur moved away. And so people kind of knew and had an idea what Tupac Shakur looked like. And a friend of Billy Garland suggested that he go see the film Juice because there's a guy that looks like Tupac Shakur. And so it wasn't until that movie came out and Tupac already had a level of notoriety that Billy Garland was actually able to connect with Tupac Shakur, or at least he tried to connect with Tupac Shakur, and he kept getting a runaround. And of course, at this point, I'm pretty sure Tupac had a lot of people saying that he was his father, and trying to get this and that. When you're a celebrity of that status and people know that you have a father that passed away or a father that you haven't talked to, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to be trying to reach out to your management team, telling them that they're your long lost cousin or your long lost father. So I'm pretty sure he got a lot of that. So I believe Billy Garland. I believe that he tried to reach out, but for whatever reason, I believe he probably kept getting the runaround. And so it wasn't until Tupac Shakur actually got shot the first time in New York that Billy Garland was actually able to meet Tupac. And so we're talking about almost 20 years, Tupac went without having a father or without having his biological father in his life. And I'm not saying Tupac Shakur would have turned out any differently or his situation in life wouldn't have turned out any differently. But we can say to a certainty almost that not having his father, not having his biological father in his life and not being able to pick up a phone and talk to his father on a birthday or on a holiday or just because, not having access to his father definitely shaped him and it molded him into the person that he was. We can say that with a certainty. And I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing, because at the end of the day, we got the Tupac Shakur that we respect and that we love. And so we can't say that that's a good or a bad thing, but nevertheless, it happened. And I'm somebody that can relate to Tupac on this level. I'm somebody that moved around a lot and went from school to school and had to make new friends and adapt to different environments. So that's something I can relate to. And I think because Tupac went through that, and not just Tupac, but people in general, kids that tend to grow up moving around and going to different schools and having to make new friends, have the ability to adapt to their environment. And that can be a good or a bad thing. That can be a good or a bad thing. Being able to have this chameleon personality. And now that I'm saying it, I think that's the number one reason why a lot of people, even to this day, a lot of his friends, a lot of people that were close to him, allegedly close to him, said that there were 4 different sides to Tupac. You hear that a lot. That's a common theme in a lot of interviews. They said if you knew Tupac, it was like knowing 4 different people. You never knew what you were going to get. He could be this way around certain people, and he could be that way around another group of people. And to a lot of people that don't know any better, it comes across as being phony. You come across as not being genuine. But that's not the case. Being able to adapt to your environment and being able to adapt to different people, it doesn't make you phony in the least bit. A lot of people don't understand it, so what they don't understand, they want to label something. But that's the last thing you want to label it. And so from all accounts and all the different people that you hear from in different interviews and different people and relationships that he formed over the years, everybody says the same thing when it comes to this, his character. Nobody ever questioned his character. Like I said earlier, just because you have the ability to adapt and be able to adapt to different people and to be able to adapt to your environment doesn't make you phony. Only thing that would make him a phony is if his values and his morals changed. That would make him a phony. But to be able to have different kind of conversations with anybody, that's really a gift. And it's a skill, and not many people have mastered that. Not many people can master that. Like I said, unless you grew up as a kid or even as an adult having to travel and having to adapt to different personalities in order to, in essence, survive. Because when you're a kid and you're trying to make friends, that's all you know. That's the most important thing. I got to go to this new school and I got to make friends. I got to fit in. And like I said, in the mind of a 10-year-old, that's life or death. Being able to fit in and being able to find new friends and people that you can click with, that's the most important thing. And so I think it's a skill that gets harder to obtain as you get older. But when you're a child, like I said, that's the most important thing. There's no other focus. Your focus is on how can I fit in? How can I adapt in this new environment? And then next year, you got to do it all over again, or however many more years are in between before your next move. And so that's something I can relate to. And that's one of those skills that I don't think Tupac would have necessarily had he had a stable life and a stable home environment. And I'm not saying that he wouldn't, I just think that it would have been a lot harder to gain. And so because of that, Tupac Shakur was the talented Mr. Ripley. And if any of you all have ever seen that movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Everybody should have one talent. What's yours?
Impersonating practically anybody.
Okay. Do an impression.
The only talent my son has is for cashing his allowance.
I feel like he's here. Horrible, like the old bastard's here right now.
Good.
That's brilliant. Brilliant.
And so in that movie, Matt Damon was able to take on the persona of just about anybody that he came in contact with. And so that's definitely a skill. In the movie, The Talented Mr. Ripley is probably an extreme version of that. But it was a good example. Like I said, if you've seen that movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. That's actually one of my favorite movies. Like I said, I can somewhat relate. I'm not on that Matt Damon level, but I can relate to being able to fit in and being comfortable in just about any room that I'm in. And so there's a lot of people making videos about Afeni Shakur and how she did Billy Garland wrong by up and leaving and telling Tupac Shakur that he had passed away when he didn't. And I'm not mad at it. I don't think their opinion is not valid. I just believe that the circumstances that we're born into in this life dictate the outcomes. You know, because Tupac Shakur went through what he went through and his experience was what it was, it obviously shaped him into the man, into the individual, into the poet, into the actor that we all respected and adored to some degree. And of course, he wasn't without his flaws. What young 20-year-old isn't? But for the short amount of time that he was here, I believe that his upbringing and the decision of Afeni Shakur and the decisions of Billy Garland impacted him and made him to the man that he was. Was it wrong for Afeni Shakur to tell Tupac that his father died? Yes. Was it wrong for Billy Garland to not try harder to be in Tupac Shakur's life? Yes, absolutely. All that is true. But at the same time, if it wasn't for what Tupac went through, if it wasn't for the struggle that he went through, maybe unnecessarily went through, we wouldn't have had Tupac Shakur. And so sometimes we can't overthink things, especially when it comes to other people's decisions and how it affects people within their life. Sometimes that's out of our hands and it's out of our control. We just have to learn to appreciate and respect the outcomes in which people like Tupac Shakur was able to shape his life into. We just have to respect it for what it was and for what it is. And so I think that's going to be a good spot to end. And of course, make sure you guys chime in the comment section, and also make sure you hit that like button for me on your way out. And as usual, peace and chaos.